Thank you, Marie, and thank you to my fellow speakers, Dr. Nasser and Jay. And you can notice Marie used the word generally a nice guy, not always. Thank you very much for all of you being here. I really find it a privilege to address all of you. So the topic this morning for my presentation is CSIR in aerospace, an engine for future industrial growth. I'm currently the manager for CSIR Aeronautics. My talk will touch on a brief summary of past and current activities in South African aerospace, an overview of CSIR capabilities and opportunities for impact. If we have to summarize some of the highlights of past and current activities, South Africa established a very strong capability over the years in a number of platforms, capabilities. We established the ability to produce our own fighter aircraft in country, do midlife upgrades on heavy lift helicopters. We've developed our own UAVs in the past. We have developed a local attack helicopter, which is an incredible feat for a country of our size. The world's first all-composite trainer, which many of you might know, which performed extremely well. And then we have the target drone that we use to develop our missiles down in the Cape. The R-like aircraft, which is currently under development and being exported. The Sumbandila satellite, which was launched some years ago. And then the airborne observation system, called the Argos. So these are just some of the examples of past and current activities. Some of the other examples on the commercial side, we'd look at the Raven light aircraft, the world-beating Yonker sailplane, which has sold more than 100 platforms. We're currently supplying as a country to the likes of Boeing and Airbus. I'm glad to see my colleagues from Aerosud here, and they can tell you their story, where they're primarily supplying or exporting to the likes of Airbus and Boeing. Then we have the likes of the Sling aircraft, the Air-Data short-range air-to-air missile, a world-class air-to-air missile developed in South Africa, eventually integrated onto the Saab light fighter aircraft. And if we look at the Gripen aircraft, some of the activities that we undertook as a country on that program included the development of the main landing gear, design and development of the pylons on the EW and radar side, and including the integration of the Air-Data missile. On the Airbus A400M, we had the likes of Aerosud and Airbus and Denel working in partnership to deliver a really world-class product, and then obviously on Augusta as well. Our country has established its independent missile and guided weapons capability, and in doing so established a number of facilities across the country, including the Overberg Test Range down in the Cape, the Test Flight Center down in the Cape, the CSIR wind tunnels, which is approximately 2 billion rands worth of infrastructure in terms of replacement value, and then there's the Alkanpan ballistics range. Now, what we're seeing on this slide is a country's will to be sovereign and strategic in a particular area, which is guided weapons. But subsequently, many things have changed. If we take a brief history of our defense industry, and some of it might have been discussed yesterday. In the mid-1980s, we were exporting at the peak of our production or export about $100 million worth of exports as a country. And that's in 1989 terms, $100 million of exports. Subsequently, post-1990, our defense funding has dropped by 50%. Our defense acquisition budget has dropped by 80%. R&D budget on defense has dropped by 70%. Industry turnover in terms of today's money has dropped from 31.6 billion rands to 19 billion rands. 130 people strong industry, 130,000 people strong industry in 3,000 companies, and now we're about 15,000 people in 120 companies. The question is, does the sector have what it takes to to grow? Does it have the capability and insight and know-how to survive beyond budget cuts? And as we heard, budget cuts are not a South African thing, they're a global thing. Do we have the capability and insight? And from the presentation that my colleagues gave, and Jay in particular, yes, we do. We do have the capability. I want to cite a few examples. My colleagues from Aerosud are here. They have more than 800 people, and they're exporting more than R1 billion worth of work abroad as a tier 1 supplier to OEMs. My colleagues at Denel Aerostructures, also under R1 billion worth of turnover, mostly export. Hensoldt, which was formerly Airbus Defence and Space, 300 employees, 700 million rand turnover, approximately 600 million rand of that is overseas or exports. RDM, 2,000 employees, 2 billion rand turnover annually, more than 80% exports. Saab Grintech Defence, more than 1.2 billion rand turnover, more than 80% export. So it's answered the question. We can do it. We know what, there is a recipe. And I have to ask a very difficult question. What is the CSR's contribution to all those that they are exporting? Without implicating myself with numbers, I'm going to say not enough. Does the CSR have the track record and the capability? Absolutely. And so what is missing? And it's not the engine. The title of my talk was The Engine for Industrial Development. It's not the engine that's a problem. I think it's more the heart and mind that needs work. It starts by listening. Listening, conversation, and synthesizing inputs from various sources and understanding and then implementing and having the heart and mind and discipline to follow through. It takes hard work and it takes guts. When I was at Airbus Defence and Space 2 years back with Marie, and we also visited DLR in Cologne. We also stopped over at the Cologne church, and one of our group executives was with us. And we'd listened to the history of the Cologne church, and you hear a period of development of about 1,000 years. Now, can you understand the development of a building that took 1,000 years? We went to the factory at Airbus Defence and Space where they assemble large complex assemblies for the launches, the RN5 and the RN6, and we went to the A400M assembly factory. And you understand what it takes to produce niche products, innovative products that make a difference. It takes discipline, it takes the long haul, it takes courage, and it takes guts. So I believe it starts by listening, but following through. Our CEO, Dr. Dlamini, was very clear yesterday when he addressed us at the gala dinner. He said, CSR needs to focus on industry impact. We need to do more of this. It is very clear, it's not complicated. The minister spoke further, and she made it even, she emphasized the point. And she said, yes, we need innovation to improve efficiencies, we need innovation to do things better, but we need something a little bit more than just that. We need innovation that transforms. We need innovation that transforms, that doesn't just look at efficiencies, it looks at attacking some of the challenges we have that are unique to us as a country, the triple challenges of unemployment, inequality. So that's the challenge that has been laid down to the CSR. How do we use the capability we have, the engine we have, to support our industry? To give you an overview of some of the capabilities in the CSR, we have capabilities in optronic sensors, in EW, earth observation, aeronautics, materials and manufacturing, laser technology, and radar. I'll talk about this a little bit more during the next few slides. We have a number of facilities which are capital intensive in nature, that have significant investment from the CSR, from government departments, and from industry. So we're talking about, if I just can go back one slide, the titanium plant, the laser laboratory, the National Laser Facility, the Biocomposites Research Facility, the Nanomaterials Laboratory, biomanufacturing industry development center, the biorefinery and forest production laboratory. We have the largest suite of wind tunnels in the southern hemisphere. We have the mobile intelligent autonomous systems lab, the nano upscale facility, the radar electro-optical facility. In the defense and security environment, we have the concept development and experimentation center, and we have the Powderfontein Detonics, Ballistics and Explosives lab. So we have significant capability at the CSR. How do we harness this to improve our industry? How do we harness that to make our industry more competitive, to export more? How do we help them to put more competitive products on the shelf? And I want to start off with the theme of materials and manufacturing. More than a year ago, we were tasked by Department of Science and Technology to build a roadmap for aerospace, aerostructures. So I teamed up with my colleague from Aerosud, Wouter Gerber, my colleagues from Danela Aerostructures, which was Willy van der Walt, head of engineering, and we hosted a number of stakeholder engagements. And we engaged with over 50 people over a year. And the engagement resulted in something that that is very sound from a strategy point of view. And the industry opted to focus its effort on the following activities: to achieve manufacturing of more complex, larger assemblies for the large OEMs like Airbus, Boeing, Bombardier, Embraer. We are currently manufacturing for global OEMs at Tier 1 and Tier 2, as I've discussed before, but we need to develop advanced capabilities for more complexity and more value add. We are competing with the likes of China, Morocco, Tunisia, Mexico. What is our value add? And consider that our logistics change is significantly more than the others. We are importing material, and we have to export completed systems over a longer logistics chain. So we really have to be much more innovative than our competitors. It doesn't help to match them. We have to be much more competitive. We need to improve efficiencies. We need to include automation to drive down cost and time. And another idea that was heavily supported by industry was the development of a locally developed transport solution, air transport solution, like a regional aircraft. And the benefit of developing a program like this is, number one, like Mr. J. Isaac said, you become your own client, and thereby establishing confidence in the industry, and you're able to now establish a rapport with international OEMs. If we provide our own market, we create our own market, and we show confidence in our capabilities to develop our own regional aircraft, we will help other parts of the industry. I was at an Airbus event in Paris in June this year, and it was next to the Ritz Hotel. It was a very fancy event. I was privileged to be invited, so thank you to my Airbus colleagues for inviting us. Your CEO, Tom Enders, addressed us. It was a very fancy function because you know the size, when the size of the food is that little on your plate, then you know it's really fancy function. So I enjoyed the interaction during that evening, but one of the very interesting interactions was with a fellow African. It was a gentleman from Cameroon, from their defense force, and we had a discussion about how can we take Africa to the next level. And I spoke to him about the current exports of South Africa into the aerospace supply chain. And I spoke to him about what about a local idea that to develop a regional aircraft, which is developed on the continent and exported in the order of hundreds to 1,000 units. That is so unique that it addresses our current mobility challenges on the continent, at the same time creating the opportunity for innovation and export growth. And he says, by all means, great idea, but South Africa must lead. So Africa is waiting for South Africa to take the lead and take the charge. It's up to us. Some of the aspects that were identified in the road mapping session on aerostructures was new materials in thermosets, carbon fiber, cell core technologies, natural fiber, out of autoclave technologies, additive manufacturing, non-destructive testing. And one of the very interesting things that came out for me was our industry understands the levers that make them successful and make them unsuccessful. They understand their processes so well in order to supply to the likes of a Boeing or an Airbus for a single aisle aircraft. They know exactly the cost they need to target. And they understand the bottlenecks. If they can use their current infrastructure, let alone upgrading for automation and factories of the future and Industry 4.0, if they can leverage the current infrastructure and optimize the utility of the current infrastructure to improve their cost base, they will already be better. And that capability is required. Automation, international companies are investing heavily in automation and achieving 25%, up to 25% reduction in cost. How do you compete with that? Digital manufacturing is the way the world is working, Industry 4.0, so we do have to gear up for that. So these and other topics came out of the roadmap, and like my colleagues would say, so we got this beautiful roadmap, and then what next? So South Africa has a reputation for building a beautiful strategy, and then we don't implement. And yes, we can say there's not enough money, but implementing a strategy in the current environment just doesn't happen. We have to constantly engage with our stakeholders, with the purse holders. And it's about synthesizing hearts and minds around ideas that make sense. And so we're currently engaging with DST and DTI to try and get the next steps of this roadmap implemented. So there's still some work to be done, but I do believe we can work harder and we can work faster. We actually do need to work faster. The other efforts that the CSIR are undertaking is in the materials and manufacturing space is the Advanced Metals Initiative, which includes titanium alloy powder production for aerospace, the laser additive manufacturing. We are building the world's largest and fastest additive manufacturing system. It's currently supported by DST and CSIR and Aerosud. We have a biocomposite center for aerospace, non-destructive testing R&D center, and the Aerospace Industry Support Initiative managed by Marie is currently supporting DTI in supporting the transfer of technology to industry. So how do we address those topics? We are addressing some of them, but nearly not enough. Absolutely not enough. Other areas in the CSR, we have capabilities in aeronautics. The guided weapons program was born in this area. The predecessor to what you currently see as Royvalk was born here. The world's composite trainer was obviously also, the world's first composite trainer was also developed in this building. So we have the capabilities in aerodynamic simulation, test and evaluation, airborne systems development, weapons integration, UAVs, propulsion systems, and we're partnering strongly with Denel Dynamics to look at the next technologies for new generation missiles. They have a very competitive capability, but they do need new products for the future, and we're supporting them in building those new technologies for new products. Our optronic sensors group is currently has a strong capability in infrared detection, infrared suppression, and infrared countermeasures. They have a DST-funded site that they use for satellite calibration as well. The Sumbandila sat that was launched in 2009, the Optronic Sensors Group supported that satellite with calibration capability. We're also developing very unique and novel electro-optic images, electro-optic payloads for satellites, for UAVs. So it's a combination of in-house development and integrating commercial off-the-shelf solution to produce unique and novel sensors, unique and novel sensor networks, image processing. If we take the one example, the optical payload for forest fire detection, it's a novel sensor concept for satellite, high quality detections with very low cost that can detect fell fires from satellites. Our radar sensors group and testing evaluation group is the oldest capability in the CSIR. has a strong test and evaluation heritage and an electronics hardware development capability. Currently, one of the highlights, project highlights, is the development of a synthetic aperture radar capability to develop niche products in the country to enable our industries, to enable new SMMEs, new industries for airborne systems like UAVs all the way up to satellites. All weather, day and night, for various applications. The system is currently being tested, and we're establishing a number of test and evaluation capabilities to support the development of niche synthetic aperture radar capabilities in the country. There's significant opportunity in that environment for new SMMEs and exports. And then, close to the end of my slides, I want to speak about a development that we've been working on, which is actually a synthesis of two areas, which is the radar electronic warfare and the aeronautics. So we've combined really core niche capabilities between aeronautics and radar and electronic warfare to develop a unique test and evaluation payload for training of radar and EW system operators, red airborne exercises, and we believe we're developing a very niche, complex system in very short timescales. Some of the benefits of the history and the legacy we have is that we're able to optimize our process to do things faster. So typically a weapons integration program would take hundreds of millions of rands and 5 or 6 years. We've short-circuited that process without compromising safety and quality to reduce that time to a matter of 18 months and at a fraction of a cost. Some of the initiatives that the CSIR is hosting to support aerospace includes the Aerospace Industry Support Initiative, creating small, medium, and micro enterprises through enterprise development, product lifecycle management, for product development, facilitating concurrent multidisciplinary engineering. And that is all I have to say. Thank you.